Do you ever get frustrated and feel like the price of gold and silver are manipulated? No, it's just a good old free market, right? There's nobody manipulating. You must be crazy to think that a tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist. Or are the prices of gold and silver actually manipulated? In this video, we're going to talk about just that. We're going to talk about why the price of gold and silver might be manipulated and who might have an interest in doing that. And we're going to talk about how it's done. It's not that complicated, guys. I know in theory you hear about the COMEX and derivatives. Trust me, it's not that complicated. You can get it. I'm going to explain it to you. I'm glad you're here. Hold my hand and let's go on a little journey of gold and silver price manipulation. Do you like to dive a little deeper, not believe every last thing you hear on the television set, the children's news network, CNN? If that's you, if you're maybe just a little smarter than the average bear, you found yourself a home. I'll put out a new video for you every day. If you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing right here. Turn the little bell ding-a-ling notification on. That way you'll get an update every time I put out a new video. Leave a comment in the comment section below. That is so important that we hear your ideas. Now let's get back to this gold and silver price manipulation walk and see what we find out. First, and this is critically important for us to understand, who might have an interest in keeping the price of precious metals down? The Federal Reserve, all of the Western central banks, all the fiat money lovers. Because think about this, and it's really easy, guys. Think about this. Back in 1971, Richard Nixon took the United States of America off the gold standard, right? Think about that. He divorced the United States temporarily from the gold standard. What happens when you go through a divorce? Well, typically what happens is the people don't like each other anymore. So the Federal Reserve doesn't like the price of gold and silver. They want it to be down. It would be like, let's say you're a Formula One race team, Red Bull, for instance, right? And you use Honda engines in your race cars. And then you decide to switch from Honda engines to Mercedes engines. Well, you're going to have an interest in the Mercedes engines doing better, not the Honda. Same thing with the Fed. When they divorced themselves from gold and silver, at that point, gold and silver became their enemy. Now, they're not going to explicitly say that, but much research, much investigative work has been done that proves that very point. Now let's meander a little further down the path and look at how they manipulate the price of gold and silver. And I don't know that the Federal Reserve directly manipulates it, but they've got their tentacles out there and they are able to push down the price of gold and silver. But how do they do that? Well, let's refer to a couple things in this article by Jim Rickards. It was on Zero Hedge. It was called Rigged. He points out a couple things. You've got to understand that for each real ounce of silver in existence, there are as much as 100 paper contracts, derivative contracts, whatever you want to call it, claims on each one of those ounces of silver. It would be like a coat check where there's one coat at the coat check, one actual coat, but there's 100 people who have tickets to claim that coat. That is an excellent analogy that he pointed out, and that's how, through that leverage, they are able to manipulate the precious metals prices. Let's stop for a second and add a little credibility to our argument that the prices of gold and silver are manipulated. Let's talk about Jim Rickards, and he mentions that he spoke to a professor, a doctor, Rosa Abratzmetz at the New York University Stern School of Business. She's the leading expert on global price manipulation. She has actually testified in gold manipulation cases. She wrote a report reaching the same conclusions. The bottom line is the price manipulation isn't just an opinion or some deep, dark conspiracy theory. It is real. Here you have a PhD statistician, expert witness in litigation, qualified by the courts, and as straight-laced as they come, who independently reached the same conclusion. The prices are manipulated. Could there even be a little more proof that the prices are manipulated? Let's shine our lights over there where we see Jamie Dimon and J.P. Morgan Chase. Well, what do you know? I wonder if they happen to manipulate the price of gold and silver. Well, they paid almost $1 billion in fines not too long ago because it was proven that they did. And just in the last year, a couple of their traders have been convicted. We're awaiting sentencing, but convicted of price manipulation in the precious metals market. Do we need any more proof? But let's do something interesting. I want to teach you how they do it. It's called spoofing, and we're going to cover that right now. Spoofing in the electronic derivative market for the COMEX and the LBMA is a very complicated subject. You'll probably never understand it, so you might as well stop watching this video. Wrong. It's simple, and I'm going to teach it to you right now. Spoofing is basically creating artificial demand or artificial supply because you want to move the market. So think about that. If J.P. Morgan wants the price of gold or silver to go down, what they would do is put a flood of sell orders in above the current sell order, but a bunch of fake, make-believe sell orders above the current price of the metal. And that would scare everybody else into thinking, oh my God, there's a bunch of people that want to sell gold or sell silver. So they would be willing to sell what they have at a much, much lower price. The same thing works in reverse if they wanted to buy. Now, here's an analogy you can think of. Let's say you are selling your house. You could think of that as like an ounce of gold, but we're going to use the analogy of your house. You want to sell your house, okay? So you list your house and it's on the market for a week or so and you're getting a little activity. Somebody makes an offer that's lower than you want to take, so you're kind of sitting on it. And overnight, this tricky real estate agent, his name's J.P. Morgan, by the way, he comes into your neighborhood and puts for sale signs in all your neighbors' yards. So the next morning when you wake up, you see all these for sale signs and you freak out. You're like, oh my God, everybody's selling their house. We better take that offer that we had that was lower. You were just spoofed into selling your house for a lower price than you should have because you believed falsely that all your neighbors were going to sell their house. Those were fake for sale signs. That's exactly what J.P. Morgan and the other corrupt traders do when they want to lower the price of the metals on the major exchanges. So I don't know what you think. Leave a comment below. Do you believe the price of metals is manipulated? I believe it is, but I also know one key point that we need to understand. In the long run, the value of metals will shine on through. It's done it for hundreds of years. It's done it for thousands of years. They've been valuable everywhere in the world, on the planet, and always. And that will continue to be the case. Hey, thank you for joining me in Ron's Basement. I'm glad you're here. I love you. Your mama loves you. And until next time, you be well.